We all know the dangers of the world of the paranormal, or do we? First off, we take a look at the story of someone just trying to eat a slice of pizza. But bite after bite, they realize a deadly mystery is going on. And then we take a look at the story of a young woman who has just gotten a new job. Oh, she's so excited. She's going to have so much fun and make so much money. But it turns out the ghosts that inhabit her workplace have other plans in mind. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. Here we go. Episode 1488. The theme episode nobody asked for. No, I mean, we had a lot of requests for episode 666. What are you going to do? Episode 1000. What are you going to do? Nobody emailed me saying episode 1488 is coming up. What are you going to do? Which is fine, right? I'm not complaining that no one asked me for a theme episode for 1488. I know I have a super wide, diverse audience that listens to the show across the political spectrum, across the cultural spectrum, across the racial spectrum. It's really interesting to me because I am acutely aware of what the number 1488 means. And it's super weird because not a lot of people do. Like, wait, what? I know a couple of you are like, wow, I can't believe he's bringing this up. Well, I don't mean to bring it up. And I'm glad that people who know what 1488 means didn't reach out and say, you gotta do an episode. You gotta do a themed episode, man. And it's really interesting, because I talk to a lot of people who are really into politics and really into culture, really into the world. And they don't know what 1488 means. It doesn't mean it, but they don't know what 1488, the value that's been assigned to it. You're like, what are you building up to? Is it a ghost number? Is it some sort of number that makes aliens show up? I don't know how I learned this. I'm sure I learned it from my youth. I'm sure I learned it somewhere in the late 90s, but 1488, as far back as I can remember, has meant one thing. 14 words, and then 88. I must have learned this in high school down in Sacramento, which should be a ringing endorsement for their public school system down there. The 14 words is a white supremacist slogan that, and I don't remember the exact 14 words, but it's a 14-word sentence that goes something like, we must secure a future, it's either we must secure a future for white people and our children, or we must secure a future for our people and white children. One of the two. And there's probably some words added or subtracted in there. It's a white supremacist slogan, and then 88 means Heil Hitler. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, so 88, Heil Hitler. And I don't know if I learned that. I didn't have a hardcore white supremacist buddy in high school. I don't think I learned it because someone was trying to convince me of the strength behind all that stuff. They're like, oh, you got to join us, 1488. And I was like, what? I think I learned it almost as a survival mechanism. When you grow up in bad areas, you have to learn really quickly to learn gang tattoos. You have to be able to realize, you obviously have the gangster look, but then also it's just sometimes it's the tattoos. And I grew up in an area that had a lot of white supremacists when I was a kid. And as I got older, you started seeing, Bloods and Crips come in. And that was easier to identify. They're wearing red, they're wearing blue. But in white supremacy, Peckerwoods, there are a lot of Peckerwoods around. And then, you had more organized white supremacist gangs out in the area I lived in. You'd look for things like spiderweb on the elbow. That was generally a sign of a white supremacy gang. 88, maybe they're just wearing a jersey. Maybe their favorite player was number 88 for the Bronco Bills or whatever. But if he also had a spiderweb tattoo on his elbow, the clues are adding up. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people didn't look for that stuff because they weren't worried about gangs. They either were oblivious to the fact that they were present in the area, or they knew there were gangs in the area, but they figured, well, they're never going to mess with me. I'm a square. So you had to be able to read gang tattoos. You would look for things like black boots. If a white guy was wearing black boots, usually Doc Martens, but not all the times, usually black boots come stock with black laces. If you see them wearing black boots with white laces, that usually was an identifier that they were a member of a white supremacist gang. Now, other people may do that just for fashion, and they don't understand the significance of it. And it may never cause them any trouble, but if I saw you walking down the street, even if you had a full head of luscious hair and clothes that didn't make you look like a gangbanger or a gang member or Peckerwood or anything like that, and you had black boots with white laces, I would go, that guy might be in a white supremacist gang. Or maybe it's just a fashion choice. The other identifier was the black boots with the red laces. And that I was told this information. Sometimes information you are told turns out not to be true or the whole truth, but I remember hearing multiple times in my youth, black boots, white laces were white supremacist, allegiance to a white supremacist gang. Black boots, red laces meant you had already killed a black man. I remember at first it was, that means that you killed a black man, and that was a signifier. And you couldn't wear those laces if you were a member of a white supremacist gang and you hadn't done that yet. It was interesting because as years went on, that symbol changed. I had heard later on that it meant that you had simply killed a minority, a member of a minority. They had broadened it out than just a black man. So you'd look for identifiers like that. If you went to a club or if you were out at a park or you were just walking on the street, you would kind of try to put this story together. Because every single person you're walking by is a possible threat. I mean, obviously you could hand wave out the librarian walking down the street and the bookworm, his nose buried in a book. Basically anyone who wasn't reading a book or book related was a total threat. No, obviously you could weed out, you have to weed out some visual noise, but you would look for those identifiers. So I think that might have been where I heard it, 1488. And I see it pop up online all the time still in certain circles. So much so that I always find that it's astounding to me when I talk to people who are otherwise really well-read and have their pulse on the country and on the news. They don't know things like that. They don't know what 1488 means. That always puzzles me. I go, huh? Because I'll bring it up. Right? I mean, I'm not just like at a dinner party. They're like, well, what'd you do today, Jason? I was like, well, let me tell you about an episode number coming out. It'll just come up in conversation, and I'll mention it, and people will go, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I go, well, 1488, you've heard that. It's a white supremacist slogan. I'm like, what? And then I explain it to them, and I get two responses when I do this. It doesn't happen, just so we're clear, it doesn't happen all the time. It's not every single day. I always get two responses, though. One is, I never heard that before. That's weird. And the second one is, how do you know that? How are you aware of that? And I go, well, I grew up in a bad neighborhood, and I don't remember when I figured it out. And it's interesting, too, because when I was getting ready for the show, we do not have a white supremacy-themed episode, just so we're totally clear. We're going to talk about ghosts. But it was, to me, it's a number that is, like, it's so recognizable. I'm actually surprised I did not get one single request. And it's not a disappointed surprise. Because I think even people who are fans of the show who are white supremacists, and I know there's a broad audience, I think they're just like, well, he's not going to talk about it. I'm not going to waste my time. He's not going to talk about it. He may not even really know about it. I wonder if there's even white supremacists who don't even know what that means. But you repeat things that you think are true, and that was something that I go, well, is that what 1488 means, actually? I know the 14 words, and I know 88, Heil Hitler, because I've seen gang members wear that clothing, and it identifies them, so a normie doesn't realize that they're standing next to a hardcore, prison-bred white supremacist. I think it is important to know that, because you may see that pop up on online discourse and not really know what it means. And, I mean, if you live in a bad area, I've never seen anyone walking around with I've never in my life seen anyone walking around with a shirt that says 1488 on it. But I've definitely seen people wearing 88 shirts, and I've seen people with 88 tattoos. And again, they may just really, really like Billy Bob, who played for the Texas Rangers or something. Who knows? That's why I didn't get the promotion at work. I always wear this 88 jersey. Everyone thinks I'm a white supremacist. You're all trying to burn everything. Oh, Billy Bob, why did you betray me? Interesting. All these little signs and symbols that we don't see. I also think it's interesting because conspiracy theorists do often look for all of these clues hidden in media and all of these phrases that are said that are supposed parts of this Illuminati plot. And then there's real hidden symbols out there for people to recognize amongst each other. Very common ones. 1488 is super common. So I think it's an interesting part of conspiracy theory culture as well, because all of these subgroups, I mean, the white supremacy gang in your area may not run the city, but they definitely run parts of it. And so it is important, I think, to be aware of that stuff. I'll be honest, like up here, I usually wear like khaki shorts or baggy shorts. I like baggy shorts. And, I always wear oversized t-shirts and I have a baseball cap. Usually, sometimes I don't. And I have my gold chains and all of that stuff. And, I get it. I kind of look like a gang dude. I kind of look like, I am 48 years old. You're like, wow, you really are an OG. You were a gangster before the fashion came, and now you're still wearing it. Buy some pants, buddy. I usually dress like that all the time, right? But now I think I kind of got to switch it up, because I always wear a hat that says, I have other hats, and I don't always wear a hat, but I have a hat that says King on it. When I was down in Sacramento, I like long socks. I like really long socks, and that does kind of complete the gangster look, like the 1990s gangster look. I always think it reminds me of that scene from I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, where the guy goes into prison in like the early 70s. He's a pimp, and he has a lot of the flashiest pimp suit. And he goes to prison, and when he gets out in the 90s, he gets his clothes that he was arrested in, and he gets them back, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna be the flyest dude in town. And they show him walking down the street dressed like an old pimp, and everyone's laughing at him. That's sometimes what it feels like, because of the way that I dress. I kind of am laughing at myself, but I was down in Sacramento, and I like long socks, and I wanted really long socks. I was like, how long can they get? How long can they get? They're thigh highs. I'm buying them from like a ballet supply store. And I go, no, these socks aren't, because I have really big calves. I have super muscular calves. It's like the one part of my body where there's zero fat. But they're so huge because I've been carrying around such a big frame for so long. I have massive calves. And I get these socks and they're knee high is what they say. But they're not. They barely fit around my calf. And I was like, oh man, I don't like these socks. I have tons of socks that come up mid-calf. And on a normal human, they probably do go up. Well, anyways, I was like, what's the highest sock I can buy? So I found out that compression socks that are meant for diabetic people to not die of blood clots, they go all the way up. Because that's the point, right? It's supposed to squeeze all the blood in and stay, okay, keep moving, guys, keep moving, nothing to see here. It's keeping all those veins all compressed, which you think would be bad for it, but no, it's good, apparently. And so I bought a bag of compression socks. Like, oh, I'll give them a shot. They're the most comfortable socks I've ever worn in my life. Ever. To the fact that usually when I get home, the first thing I do is I take off all my clothes. Except for my boxers. So I'm walking around in my boxers for, 2 to 4 hours or whatever. But now I'm leaving my socks on. They're the most comfortable piece of clothing I've ever owned. So now I'm walking around in my boxers. And these socks go pretty much to my knee. I think they go right to my knees. So even with the giant calves, they pull them right up. They're not that easy to put on. They're not, it's a struggle. But they get up. So now I have these super long, crisp, clean socks because I'm pulling them right out of the bag. The other day I was at work and one of my buddies at work goes, dude, here's the thing. My brother had made a comment about this in Sacramento and I kind of brushed it off. But up here in Hood River, I was at work, and one of my good friends at work goes, oh, I'm really digging the Cholo look this year. And I go, thanks, man. But here's the thing. I didn't think about it at the time. Give it a couple minutes, and I thought, okay, we got a problem here. Because one, I do look like a Cholo. Here's the thing. If you don't know what a Cholo is, there's a lot of different meanings for it. Originally, it was a racist slur by the Spaniards against parts of the Mexican community back like in the 1700s. But then it became a source of pride. It became a a civil rights group. They called themselves the Cholos. They were very welcomed into communities, Hispanic communities. But then it turned into a gang thing, and that's kind of where it's been at for the past 30, 40 years. And I 100% looked like a Cholo. Long white socks, big baggy khaki shorts, baggy shirt, gold chains, and then a hat that says King on it. Up in Hood River, we have Hispanic gangs, and the Latin Kings is one of the biggest Hispanic gangs in the country. And I go, I can't be walking around like this, right? I cannot be walking around. I obviously look like I'm a Hispanic gangster who's lived a very long time. You're like, man, that guy's either done a decade or two in prison. He didn't know fashion changed, or he's been at it for a while. I go, I can't keep walking around like this. I'm going to get shot. There's a couple different things that are going to happen. One, somebody who doesn't like the Latin Kings, and I'm not a member of the Latin Kings, just to be clear. Federal agents who are listening to this episode, they're like, oh, 1488? Why is he talking about that? It's all shooting off all these filters. Red shoelaces on black boots. Hey guys, let's give this episode a closer listen. I go, I'm going to be walking on the street and someone who's a rival gang, like today I looked up on my phone, I was like, what are the rival gangs to the Latin Kings? It's all MS-13. I'm like, nope, I need a new wardrobe. I'm not messing with those guys. So anyways, I go, yeah, I'm either going to be walking down the street and someone's going to think I'm affiliated, which I'm sure has happened multiple times in the past couple of days that I've been doing this full look up here. Down in Sacramento, I was doing it, and every gang there has so many problems. They're like, oh, whatever. See a guy walking on the street like, we're saving our bullets for a real gang fight coming up. But up here in Hood River, I go, either I'm going to be mistaken as a rival gang member, and I'm going to get shot, or the real Latin Kings are going to be driving through town. You know, we're not that far out of Portland. We do have a lot of international travel as well. People come from all over the world. Hood River's a big tourist destination. I go, you know, I'm kind of boned either way because you cannot fly flags of a gang you are not a member of. Absolutely not. Some other gang member could be like, don't we hate the Latin Kings? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, well, what about that guy? And they see me walking down the street. I have an Akira shirt on. When I have a big baggy shirt, it has a picture of an anime guy on a motorcycle. They're like, oh, yeah, I mean, I guess he might be a Latin King, but he's probably not. Look how old he is. He's so old. But it's actually more offensive if a member of a gang thinks you're a member of a gang and you say you belong to them or act like you belong to them. And I know that's a big problem in jail and prison because a spiderweb tattoo on the elbow, very popular. It looks cool, right? A spiderweb, maybe they saw someone who had it, maybe they caught it out of a magazine, maybe they saw it in a magazine, or maybe they saw someone with that tattoo as they were riding the bus around or whatever. So you get a spiderweb elbow tattoo, and you're this white dude, and then you end up getting pinched for DUI, or mouthing off to a cop, or something basic, right? Not that DUI is, DUI is a horrible crime, but you know what I mean? Like, not something gang-affiliated. And you get grabbed, you get thrown in jail, you are going to have a way harder time in prison if you are white and you have a spiderweb tattoo on your elbow than you would if you just had went in normal. If you just went in with any other tattoos going into prison as a white guy. Because that is a gang signifier, and they will treat you like a poser. They will treat you like, can you be a traitor to a cause you never believed in? Because if there's a word for that, that's how they see you. You're actually worse off than if you'd come in with totally clean elbows. So I think it's important to know all that stuff. I am going to stop wearing my compression socks, or I have to start wearing pants. It's one of the two. I'm not going to stop wearing the hat, because the hat's pretty dope, right? And if I just have the hat on, people won't go, what? That guy's a Latin King. It's the whole getup. I totally look like I'm a gangbanger now, and I think the style has slowly been evolving over the years. But when my socks weren't high enough, I just looked like a guy. I'd have my socks pulled all the way up, but there'd be like a 4-inch gap between the shorts and the socks. So I looked like a dork. I looked like Lord Fauntleroy or something. I looked like a little Oliver Twist man. I was like, I want bigger socks. Quit looking at my knees, everybody. Quit looking at the top of my calves. I'm so ashamed. But I think I pushed it too far into, oh, no, that guy's actually a gangbanger. And we got to do something about it. So I think it's important to know about gang culture and gang clothing and gang symbols, because if you don't, you might end up in trouble. That's where all this stuff comes from. And you're like, you've noticed, I'm sure a long-time listeners show noticed, hey, he hasn't introduced who's flying us around or driving us around this episode. Yeah, I figured I didn't want to be like, hey, guess who's going to drive us this episode? It's Jimmy. And then I'm like, by the way, we're going to spend the first however long I've been talking about this. Let me take a look. 25 minutes about gang symbols. I guess this has almost become a 1488 theme episode. But anyway, so that was a little primer on gang culture / well, I don't even think it's a slash, right? Because most of the white supremacists that I knew were in gangs. I don't know if I've ever met a white supremacist who's been open about it who wasn't involved in gang activity. But I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are like professors and things like that. I'm sure there's like doctors who are white supremacists. And they're not open about it. But all the white supremacists I knew were very, very vocal about it because it was their entire identity. So you learn to navigate that world. And learning what 1488 was part of that. So it's very interesting. Yeah, I'm curious to see what the feedback will be on this episode. Because honestly, as I was creeping up to this episode, I was expecting emails. But maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's not as big as a deal. Maybe if you're not in an area where you have to know all of these things, whatever. Or honestly, I think part of it could be too is that you guys, even those who listen to the show who are racist, and obviously everyone's racist to some degree, but it's just a fault of the human condition. I'm not making excuses for it. It's a problem with us. We always look for differences. Even though our souls are all the same inside, we always look for those differences. And it's sad, really. It's really sad. But I think even those out there who probably are white supremacists who listen to the show being like, I'm not gonna bug them. Right? I mean, it would have been odd. It would have been odd for sure. But I guess it's been something that's been ingrained in my head as a kid to know what that number means, to know what all of these signs mean, to know what compression socks means. Of like, look at those diabetic patients, get them, they're from a rival gang, and they die super easily. Load your guns up with sugar, boys. We're going hunting. Yeah, no, but it was weird. As I was like, when I got to 1480, episode 1480, I mean, I've been thinking about it for weeks. I've been like, 1488's coming up. I wonder if, I guess I'm going to talk about it. And no, everyone's like, nope, no one ever thought about it. It's just you growing up in poor neighborhoods all your life. What's a Peckerwood? That is a term I use that term a lot. Again, let me back up. Not all the time. I wouldn't even say I use that term monthly. But every so often I'll use that term because I'll be like, yeah, when I grew up, there's a bunch of Peckerwoods in my area. And I get two responses. One of them is, huh? And the other one is laughter. They're like, people have been like, oh yeah, those were the days. I remember when there were a bunch of Peckerwoods where they lived. It was just like a really, really low. Here, what was interesting about Peckerwoods, and then we'll move on to the next story. It's like 30 minutes I've been talking about all this stuff, but the thing with the Peckerwoods that even other like white supremacy gangs in the area where I grew up, they looked down on them. Not that they were like pushovers, because they were a threat, right? Gangs don't mind really fighting each other, but as a civilian, you would not want to piss off a Peckerwood just as much as you wouldn't want to piss off a Crip or a Blood or whatever. But even among white supremacists, they were considered kind of like lower class white supremacists. It was a really interesting pecking order. You would have people who were in white supremacist gangs. If someone mentioned Peckerwoods, they'd laugh and go, yeah, Peckerwoods. It's like, wait, what? Like, what's going on here? Aren't you guys all in the same gang, technically? No. So interesting. I mean, I've definitely had a bizarre life. Like, when I look back at all the experiences, and most of them did occur in poor neighborhoods and bad neighborhoods, for sure. And, I'm lucky to be alive. Might be pushing that. I walked into Walmart today because I had to go buy some Diet Pepsi. I got a lot of strange looks. This was only the second day in Hood River, I think, really, that I've been wearing this particular getup. I mean, here's the thing. I'm like Inspector Gadget. I have just like an endless row of khaki shorts and a couple of black ones. And then I just have a bunch of different baggy t-shirts, but they all usually have like a design on them, but not sometimes it's just solid black. And my king hat, people were giving me odd looks. Jason, it could have not been that they thought you were a gang member. It could have been they thought that guy must have uncontrollable diabetes. He's the king of diabetes. Look at how high up those socks go. Compression socks aren't supposed to go that high. He must really be forcing them. I mean, that guy, they're like all watching, they're like, I bet you $10 he goes to the candy aisle. No, I bet you he's headed straight to the pharmacy before he dies. He needs more insulin. They're all betting as I start loading up a Diet Pepsi. They're like, yep. Actually, you know what? That's so funny. I am not making this up. I went to Walmart today. Today might just honestly be an episode about gang symbols. I don't know if we're going to get to a second story. You notice I didn't introduce a pilot or a guy driving a car, because who wants to be on this episode? They're like, yay, finally, my shout out on Dead Rabbit Radio. And I'm all, have you guys heard about the 14 words? So I kind of skipped that in the beginning, but I want to finish off with a ghost story. I went to Walmart today and I did get some funny looks. You know, whatever. I was more worried someone was going to shoot me in the back of the head, honestly, because I just was looking up all the rival gangs to the Latin Kings. It turns out it's all of them. So, anyways, because it's like one of the biggest gangs in the country. I walk into Walmart and I got my long, comfortable compression socks, my khaki shorts, big baggy shorts, big baggy shirt, gold chains, a king hat. I walk in and I get all of my diet drinks because I got my new car. All that insurance stuff got taken care of. I have a really nice car now. I was loading up on groceries, so my groceries consist of diet soda. And then I bought some turkey patties and some barbecue sauce, and I won't bore you with the details. But anyways, it was mostly Diet Pepsi. Like 4 12-packs. I get in line, the cashier's ringing me up, and there's a woman standing behind me, and she goes, I used to drink Diet Pepsi, and I go, really? Shut up, I'm drinking it now, stay away. She's like, I can't afford it anymore. I was like, well, all you have to do is have your car hit by another car and get a huge settlement check, and then you can get all the Diet Pepsi you want. She goes, I used to drink Diet Pepsi. I go, yeah, I really like it. And she goes, yeah, I stopped drinking it and I lost 8 pounds. And I was like, oh, I said, yeah, sometimes it can trick the brain into thinking sugar and all this stuff. And she goes, are you diabetic? She asked me that, and maybe at first I thought it was just because I was buying 4 12-packs of Diet Pepsi. And I go, no, I'm not diabetic. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, because, usually by drinking Diet Pepsi, it can raise your blood sugar. Oh, okay, But now I'm thinking she probably thought I was diabetic because of my huge compression socks. She's probably thinking, oh, that poor man. He's on the verge of death. And he's going to go home and drink, what is that, 48 Diet Pepsis. I better try to save him now. Well, that's another sign, right? Like people look at, if someone looks at tall socks, and to some people, they're just like, oh, Jason has on extremely tall socks. Whatever. He does look like Lord Fauntleroy. Other people go, oh, Jason must have finally succumbed to diabetes. His compression journey begins now. Eventually, I'm just wearing a compression bodysuit, so all my blood stays perfectly in place. But then to my friend, and I'm sure to people just passing by, sometimes they go, dude, that dude looks like a straight up gangbanger. Like, there's no doubt in anyone's mind. The guy's clearly repping something. He's a little old and out of shape, sure, but the gold chains, the king hat, the long socks and the baggy clothes, that guy's clearly showing the world what gang he belongs to. And that's interesting. You can see all those different things, right? All those different viewpoints. And people take what they already know about, oh, I recognize those are compression socks, he must be dying of diabetes, to, oh, Jason just has socks, and it's just, again, visual noise, they don't pay attention to it. To other people going, that guy looks like a gangbanger, and he's very old, he's very old, so it means one of two things. He's either just wearing those clothes out of some bizarre combination, he doesn't know what he looks like, or that guy survived a lot. survived so much that he's still looking for a fight by dressing like that. Alone. Driving around, walking around alone. That must mean that that guy's a threat. So we all look for all those different signs when we look at people. Some people have more information than others, right? We make those determinations. Crazy stuff, crazy world, a lot of sad stuff. Racism is the worst. Racism is pretty sad, honestly. That does kind of bum me out. I don't mean to be I'm not trying to like make light of the situation. It is one of those things that I think is part of the human condition. It's not an excuse, but it always makes me sad. People can have differences, right? People can have differences over beliefs. People can have differences over political parties. People can have differences over my nation is better than your nation. And all those things can kind of be worked out. But you can't change your race. You can't change your ethnicity. And that's why it's always kind of bummy. And most people who are, in my experience, a lot of people I know who are super racist, they regret it older. They regret it as they get older. They really do. But man, I wasted a lot of time hating people. And it was something that they couldn't change. If you hate gangbangers, that's fine. You grew up in a bad area and you had a problem with gangbangers, that's fine. Doesn't mean you have to hate black people, right? It doesn't mean you have to hate white people if you grew up in an area with a bunch of Peckerwoods. But you can go, I hate gang life. I hate low lifes. I hate this culture that I was in. But that doesn't mean I'm going to hate everyone who just shared the same characteristics of the people who engaged in that activity that oppressed me. That's my view on it. And I know that could be super controversial. That's my view on it. So it makes me sad that I even have to bring it up. Jason, you didn't have to bring it up. We're on minute 35 at this point, talking about this thing that no one was aware of that listens to your show. I don't know who you thought was going to send you an email about it. No one expected episode 14. Let's tell a ghost story. And I was going to, originally, this whole thing that I just said was supposed to be about 5 minutes long. Just so we're clear, right? I wasn't planning on talking about the compression socks. I really wasn't planning on talking about most of it. I was just going to say 1488, you know what that number means? You know what that number means to a segment of the society? And now here we are, but let's tell a ghost story to end this episode off. And since I'm not going to force a Patreon to be given a shout out for the last 10 minutes, you get to fly the Carpenter Copter. You're all, whoopee. I'm going to send this episode to my friends, being like, hey, I got a shout out on Dead Rabbit Radio. But skip past, I don't know, the 3/4 of it. Because it's really weird. Get to the ghost story. I'm going to toss you the keys of the Carpenter Copter. Everyone climb on board as you fire the bad boy up. We're leaving behind Walmart. We have boxes of compression socks stored in the back of the Carpenter Copter. We're leaving behind Walmart. Why don't you fly us all the way out to a house in the suburbs? You're all sitting silently. You're like, hey guys, don't say anything because it'll probably remind him of some racist thing. He'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, some weird obscure piece of knowledge. Have you guys heard the story of Yakub? I probably even should have brought that up. I'm going to have to do a segment on that now. That is weird. Again, it's a super weird conspiracy theory. If I remember correctly, off the top of my head, you're like, damn it, who said something? Who got Jason back on this racist subculture? There is a group of people, and again, I don't know all the details off the top of my head, but part of their mythology is it's like a black supremacy group. And they have these stories of Yakub, and he's basically like this evil mad scientist who created white people. And that's why white people are inherently evil in their belief system. Obviously, I don't believe that either. Racism is ridiculous, but it's this idea that this evil mad... I mean, how have I not... The reason why I haven't covered it on the podcast before, because to me, it's super well known. Like, I don't know the details off the top of my head, but I've read about it in the past. I don't remember the name of the group or anything like that. But, I've read about it multiple times in the past, so I go, oh, everyone knows about Yakub, the evil mad scientist who created white people, so maybe I should do an episode on it. A lot of times I just assume people know things because I know them. So I go, I'm not going to cover that, but maybe I will, because it is fascinating. It's very fascinating. I'll have to look that back up. But anyways, We're headed all the way out to this house in the suburbs, and we're going to meet a young girl. We don't have a real name. Let's call her Tori. Tori is at home with her family, and they're making pizza. Oh, mamma mia! Didn't just give this big thing about racism, and then you're like, oh, Italians, let's do, manja. And anyways, that's not racism. That's it's stereotype. I mean, I guess that is racism, but anyways, okay, you're right. I can't say mamma mia or manja this segment, because I look like a hypocrite. I'll say it on another segment. You'll forget about this whole episode. Tori is sitting there, and she's at home, and her family made pizza. They straight up rolled the dough and stuff like that. We don't have a year for this story, but I'm assuming it took place during COVID. Because why else would you go through all that? Just buy a pizza, get a DiGiorno, get a Papa Murphy's or something like that. But they make it. Dough, fresh dough, however you make dough. They're like, oh, get the flour and some water, and I'm going to spin it around in this pot. He puts on his fingers, he's spinning it like a basketball. It's all flying everywhere. He's like, oh, look at this. Traditional pizza. I think dough is made out of flour and water. Probably some butter. Throw a cube of butter in there, too. And then that's why you have diabetes, you fool. It's not how you make dough at all, but definitely don't throw an entire stick of butter. They make the dough. They buy the cheese like a bunch of lazy people. I don't understand why they don't make their own cheese. They're out there milking the cow. They're like, it's pizza night tonight. So Betsy, I hope your udders are fine, because I'm going to be yanking on them for a while. You make the dough, but you buy the cheese. How lazy. And then sauce, right? They probably make their own sauce. That's pretty easy. Just smash a bunch of tomatoes, throw a stick of butter in there. Voila, there you go. They have this homemade pizza, truly homemade. They cook it in the oven. It's finally done. Ding! It's time for everyone to take a slice. So Dad grabs a slice of pizza. Nom, 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 nom. He just sits there silently. He doesn't say the M word. And Mom grabs a slice of pizza. Nom, nom, nom. Yummy! And then, the other people in the family, they're eating their pizza. And Tori takes her slice and she takes a bite out of it. And that's when she sees, perilously close to where her mouth had made a big from the slice of pizza, she sees on her slice of pizza a tiny piece of glass. Ugh. Hey, Mom, Dad, there's glass in my pizza. What? That's crazy. Well, grab another slice. They're too busy eating their own pizza. Her mouth is bleeding. She's like, ah! And they're like, just grab another slice of pizza. You find a piece of glass in your food is obviously alarming. But, how often do you find hair in your food? I had a plastic fork break when I was eating a turkey patty the other day. No, it was a big slab of ham. I just had a big slab. What are you, a cartoon character? I had a big slab of ham I got from a local restaurant, and I was trying to eat it with a plastic fork, and the fork broke in it. So now I'm holding a 3-pronged fork, and I go, damn it. Somewhere in this slab of ham, there's a piece of plastic that I have to find. So I begin tearing the ham apart with my hands. Like, not on this part. Not on this part. And finally, because I ripped the ham, it's called a ham steak. It's like a big, thick piece of ham. I ripped the ham in half because I knew what part had the plastic. I just didn't know how deep it was. So I ripped the ham in half and I put the clean half aside, and then I went through the rest of the ham. Like, Jason, this is not as interesting as you think it is. Yeah, but it's providing context. I then took the plastic contaminated ham. Somewhere in there was a little piece of plastic just a couple centimeters long. You start tearing the ham apart, and then finally, voila! Or voila, depending on your pronunciation. I had this little tiny piece of plastic, and I accidentally ate it. I was like, I got so confused. What was food and what was not? I threw it away. I was able to eat all of my ham steak. You just go with it, right? I find hair in my food. It's not a big deal. I hope that it's mine. I was like, a long blonde hair? Whatever. You just deal with it. You find a little piece of glass in your food, it's going to happen. So she does go, and she grabs another slice, and she's kind of looking at it, and she takes a bite, and then she looks a little bit closer. In that slice of pizza, a little piece of glass. Now, she picked the second slice of pizza at random. Still had glass in it. She then went over and grabbed another slice of pizza, and this time inspected it very carefully. And as she's looking at it, she sees in that third slice of pizza a tiny piece of glass. You're going, is that the ghost or you're waiting for Beetlejuice to pop up? He jumps out of the toaster oven. A boogity boogity. Well, here's the thing. Let me finish. Well, I did finish. That is the whole story, but let me explain a little bit. At this point, everyone kind of put down their pizza. Everyone's like, well, I don't know. Out of this giant pizza, she's had 3 slices. All 3 of them have had glass in them. Do our slices have glass in them too? No! No one else's pizza had glass in it. None of the remaining pizza had glass in it. So out of the 3 slices she took, there was no glass in the remaining parts of the pizza. None of the other family members got a piece of glass. None of the rest of the pizza had a piece of glass. They begin going through all of the ingredients that they used. The stuff they used to make the dough, the stuff they used to make the sauce. All of this stuff. The cheese packet they bought from the store. To account for the glass, not only could they not find glass anywhere else, they couldn't find any reason why there would be broken glass in the pizza in the first place. There's not like a jar that has a chip on it. There's not a container that has cracked. Nothing. There's nothing in the kitchen that would have created those 3 pieces of glass in the pizza. And then the question is, why only Tori's pizza? Why only the slices she chose? It's an interesting story. It didn't have a ghost in it. Sorry, I apologize for it, but I don't apologize for it being an interesting paranormal story because it's almost, in a way, you have to, well, it could have been a ghost, but I mean, something was definitely, you can either say messing with her, like pulling a prank, but at what point does it go from being a prank to being a disaster waiting to happen? Like, it's, whatever's doing this is trying to get her to eat glass. It's not a prank. That's a crime. And then you have to wonder how it was appearing in only the slices she took. So it would seem like whatever was going on was targeting her. You go, it could have just been bad luck. 3 tiny pieces of glass with no known origin landed on 3 slices of pizza, and out of the remaining slices of pizza for her to take, each one had the glass in it. Statistically, that's possible, sure. But it's also a reminder of how dangerous the world of the paranormal can be. This was not a ghost hunt. This was not someone out stargazing in the middle of Arizona. I mean, at that point, you're kind of asking for aliens to show up. This wasn't anything like that. She wasn't playing with the Ouija board. She just wanted to sit down and eat some pizza. And she almost swallowed glass multiple times. And if this was of a paranormal origin, which I think it is, or just maybe at a certain point, you're so unlucky, you're paranormally unlucky. Why her? Why that vector? That would really start to make me paranoid if that happened to me. And especially if I had one pizza that had multiple pieces of glass in it and it was just me, I would throw the pizza away. I wouldn't even be trying to dig it through. I'd call the store and go, 1 ham steak, please. But if it was a group of people and they're eating pizza and all of your slices had glass in it, you could go, well, maybe someone at the house was throwing glass in her pizza. It's possible, too. But that would make me paranoid as well. That would probably make me extremely paranoid if someone in my home is trying to get me cut up from the inside. But imagine if you thought a paranormal force had done this. This almost seems like the beginning of an OCD outbreak. Like someone who's constantly checking their pizza. Well, not just pizza, but they're like eating a bunch of spaghetti. There's nails sticking out of it. You're all, Tori, don't. This would be something that would trigger like extreme OCD. Or I don't think you have to use the word extreme because it's obsessive is the first word. But you know what I mean? Like you would have this thing where you would always be worried that something was putting glass or some other sort of harmful object in your food. But in this case, I mean, it's not really obsessive compulsive disorder if it's real. If you really can't open your door without, wiping the doorknob off 22 times because you're afraid your cat will die, that's obsessive compulsive disorder. But if your doorknob is rigged up to a fishing line that is tied to an axe that's right over your cat, and the code to not make the axe fall is 22 rubs. then it's not OCD. It's, first off, you might want to buy a new doorknob. You're like, I didn't know I could do that. Yeah, go to Home Depot. Just get a new doorknob. That's not obsessive compulsive disorder. That would be real. There's a real physical threat there. You're looking at it. It's not like, oh no, if I don't blink 13 times every time a new episode of Seinfeld starts, my great aunt will die. You know, that's like a superstition that's broken all sense of reality, and it's actually harming your life. OCD isn't having your pencil lined up just the right way on your work desk. OCD really is obsessive. It's life-ruining. But this would be real. Like, if this continued to happen, how many times would this have to happen? It happened 3 times in one night. How many times would it have to happen after this that you became very, very suspicious about putting any food in your body? It's not like she went to McDonald's and got home and there was a chicken leg in the middle of her McRib. That would just make you not go to McDonald's anymore. But this happened in her home with homemade food. And there were these pieces of glass in it. Was it paranormal? And what would be the mental ramifications of that? Also, just the fear that there's an unseen entity out to get you. Is it just statistics? Were there 3 tiny pieces of glass and they had to go somewhere? I mean, the world, it does work like that. Or honestly, you could argue more troubling, is it someone in the family trying to feed her glass? That almost sounds like a fetish, too. You could probably, keep an eye on your brothers. They might have a glass feeding fetish. It might be. I don't know if she has brothers, actually. I was like, Mark, Jacob, keep an eye on this dude, because I don't know if she has brothers. But, I mean, I know women have fetishes, too, but I don't know if they have, like, a glass feeding fetish. To be fair, I don't know if anybody does. But I'm sure somebody does. One of her relatives is the only person in the world who has a fetish for feeding people glass. Why did we get onto that? Oh, yeah. I'm totally off. But yeah, no, crazy stuff. Right? Glass feeding fetish. Episode 1488. It was all building up to this, a glass feeding fetish. No, just the idea that, like, what would be worse for you? Forget the statistics one. That would just be weird luck. Would you rather have a unseen entity trying to hide glass? This is it. You have to choose one of these two. You have to choose one. Either an unseen entity dropping glass in your food. Tiny pieces of glass. It's not really going to hurt you in the beginning, but, if you don't have regular bowel movements, it's going to build up right there. It's like pooping out a chandelier. You're like, this is the worst. Ghost, why'd you do this to me? Would you rather have an unseen paranormal force hiding glass in your food, or one of your relatives that you live with, or maybe a roommate if you have a roommate, hiding glass in your food? You're like, I live alone. Okay, well, fine then. You get a roommate. His name is Johnny Glass. And he seems to really like glass. He's like, look at all the stained glass I brought in. And you're like, well, you don't even have a window in your room. You sleep in the basement. And you're like, yeah, but I get to look at all this stained glass. Hey, would you like me to make you a meal? You're like, sure. He's just there to drop off the application. He's like, this is how I apply for roommates. I show up and make a meal. And you hear him in there making you a big pizza. You're like, wait, this your glass? This your glass break? Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's just part of my process. I sing at such a perfect pitch that it sounds like glass breaking. Okay, well, I'm pretty hungry, so I'm going to ignore. He comes out with bloody hands. You're like, I'm going to ignore that. I'm so hungry. He's all putting his hands in the pasta. He's putting his hands in the sauce. You're like, oh, I'm that hungry. And he comes and he feeds you glass pizza. Tiny little pieces of glass, but glass nonetheless. You're like, Jason, I don't care if it's a ghost or a person. I would just look, which is what everyone should do. Yeah, but then you will get obsessive compulsive disorder too. You couldn't even order like soup because you couldn't see the glass. It'd all be at the bottom, or they crack, or you like soup with crackers like a normal person. And you're like, you couldn't figure it out. So, ghost glass saboteur or creepy human putting glass in your food. Which is worse? Which one would you rather choose? I expect a ton of emails on this one. Who would you rather have you serve up a nice helping of steaming, hot, and delicious glass pizza? deadrabbitradio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at facebook.com/deadrabbitradio. TikTok is at deadrabbitradio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.